Good morning. Today we're going to cover lesson 5.6 in Algebra 2, multiplying complex numbers. This video will support IXL lesson skill I4, and we're simplifying complex numbers, basically. Be sure to upload this, your notes on this to me by Saturday at 11:59 p.m. Make sure you include the header. If you do not, you run the risk of getting your score reduced. Okay, so we want to talk about complex numbers. And again, just so you recollect, complex numbers, they're in the form of a plus b times I. And a, of course, is the real number. And I is the imaginary number. And of course, the b is also a real number multiplied to the imaginary number, which makes the whole thing imaginary. But together, that forms a complex number. So to understand what we're going to do today, we have to remember that I is nothing more than the square root of negative 1. Now, what is the square root of 3 times the square root of 3? Okay, so when we simplify that, what we're really doing is we're writing out square root of 3 times the square root of 3, and that equals the square root of 9, which we know actually equals 3. Okay. Now, what's I times I? That's the next question here. So I times I is nothing more than, well, it's I squared, isn't it? So this equals I squared. And I squared, since it's I times I, is I times I, which equals the square root of I times the square root of I, right? Which is similar to what we have up here. And so, you know, up here, what we did when we multiplied together the square root of 3 times the square root of 3, we found out that it was the answer was 9. So basically, all we did was get rid of that radical sign and took the number that was underneath it, and that became the solution. So the same thing is true here. Square root of I times the square root of I is going to be I, which is negative 1. I'm sorry, it's I squared, which equals negative 1. All right. So, again, what is I squared? I squared equals the square root of negative 1 all squared, and that equals negative 1. So what we come down to is I squared is actually negative 1. Okay? All right, just like 3 squared is 3. So this is 3 squared. 3 times 3 is 3 squared, which equals 3. I times I is I squared, which equals negative 1. That's what you need to remember for this. So I squared equals negative 1. That's the big takeaway from this. Okay? All right. Let's apply that now. So we're going to simplify these, and we're going to write it in the a plus bi form. So the first one, we're multiplying negative 3i times negative 2. So negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6i. And that's basically it. Okay? All right, and then 2 minus I here is multiplied to negative 1. Now this is really a distribution problem. So we're multiplying 2 times negative 1 and negative I times negative 1. So what is 2 times negative 1? It's negative 2, right? And I times negative 1 is basically negative I, okay? these are negative times a negative. So negative times negative is positive. Positive I, right? So we get negative 2 plus I. So you have to be careful about your negatives and your positives. And that's, I struggle with that. That's one of my personal problems to bear. And so, we just have to deal with these issues and remember them. So here we go. Here's the next one. This is negative 5i times 4i now. So negative 5 times 4 is going to be negative 20. But I times I is I squared. Oh, okay. So this is I squared. What is that really? That's really negative 1, because we said over here that I squared equals negative 1. So this is really negative 20 times negative 1. All right? And a negative times a negative is a positive, so you end up with an answer of positive 20. Okay? Positive 20. Put the plus sign outside there so you can see it. But that's your answer. All right, next problem, it's going to be distribution again. This time we're distributing the 5i to the negative 1 and the 5i to the negative 2i. Okay, so negative 1 times 5i is going to be negative 5i. And negative 2i times 5i, let's see, negative 2 times negative 2 times positive 5 is positive, not positive. Let's get rid of that. I hate it when I do that. Negative times a positive is negative, right? So, let that dry a little bit, and I'll just give it a little extra space. So negative 5 times positive 5 times negative 2 is negative 10, right? And then I've got I times I, which is I squared. Okay, so again, we've got an I squared here, right? And we know that what that is negative 1, okay? So I have negative 5i, and then this is plus negative 10 minus 1, right? Or is that times? Let's see, negative 10 times negative 1, isn't it? Because this is negative 10 times I squared, it's now negative 10 times negative 1. All right? So, cleaning that up, we've got negative 5i. And then negative 10 times negative 1 is positive 10. And then we always write these so that the real number is first. So this is commutative property. We're just going to switch the places of the two terms. So this answer is 10 minus 5i. Okay? And that is our answer. Okay? All right. Let's go on to, this is our last set. Yes, last set. So I got negative 2i squared here. And so this is, whenever you see something squared, you're going to repeat this. So that means I've got negative 2i times negative 2i. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. I times I is I squared. Oh, there we go again. This is what? It's negative 1. So this is 4 times negative 1, which equals negative 4. And that's your answer. Okay? All right. F over here. Oh, look at this. We've got two binomials, so we're going to have to FOIL this, right? So remember FOIL. And FOIL, of course, is first outer inner, last. So we'll do first to first, outer to outer, inner to inner, and last to last. So let's see, negative 3 times negative 1 is negative times negative, positive 3. Negative 3 times I is negative 3i. I times negative 1 is negative 1i. And I times I is I squared. What's I squared? Aha, I squared, negative 1. So I really have, let's combine these here. So let's combine these. So we got 3. This is negative 4i. And then this is negative 1. Right? And then 3 minus 1 is 2. So you end up with 2 minus 4i. And there is your answer. Okay. All right. G, we've got to FOIL this as well. 2 times negative 6. So first to the first, outer to the outer, inner to the inner, last to the last. So 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. Let's see. 2 times negative 2i is positive times a negative 4i, right? 3i times negative 6, that's positive times a negative, that's negative 18i. And then negative 3i, positive 3i times negative 2i, positive times a negative, and negative 6, and then we have I squared. Oh, there it is again, that I squared. So we want to make sure that we change that to negative 1. Okay? All right. So let's, again, clean this up. We've got the negative 12 out front here. We've got negative 4i and negative 18. That's what, negative 22i. And then we've got negative 6. So plus negative 6 times negative 1, because that I is negative 1, remember. So this is the I squared is negative 1, which is this. That means I've got negative 12 minus 22i, and then negative 6 times negative 1 is positive 6. Would that be correct? Positive 6? Yeah. All right, so now we've got the negative 12 and the 6. Those are the real numbers, the real component. We'll combine those and we end up with negative 6 minus 22i, and we have our solution. Okay. All right. Now, last one. This is, again, squared. We repeat this binomial. So we're going to write negative 7 plus 8i times negative 7 plus 8i. And we FOIL. So first to first, first to, or outer to outer, inner to inner, last to last. Okay, so negative 7 times negative 7, positive 49. Negative 7 times positive 8i, that's positive, is it positive? No, positive times the negative is negative. Got to watch that. Negative 56i. And then this is I times negative 7. Okay, that's, oops, I almost didn't write negative 56. I only wrote the negative 5. Okay, and then this next term, inner to inner, 8i times negative 7. 8 times negative 7 is negative 56, and then we have the I coming along. So, boy, I did it again, negative 56i. There we go. And then 8i times 8i, 8 times 8 is 64. They're both positive, so plus 64i squared. All right. I squared again, guys. Okay. So that's negative 1. Okay. All right. So let's combine the negative 56 and the negative 56. 1550 is 100, 6 and 6 is 12, so 112, negative 112. So I have 49 minus 112i. Sometimes you can do it in your head, sometimes not. Now, plus 64i squared. Okay, well, this is really plus 64 times negative 1, right? So that really is 49 minus 112i. And then 64 times negative 4 is negative 64. Okay, 49 minus 64. Let's use a calculator for that. So 49 minus 64. Gotta turn it on. So 49, let's get it where we can see it, minus 64 is, oh, I didn't like that because I didn't do the negative sign at the bottom. Let's clear that. 49 minus 64 is negative 15. So I have negative 15. That's 49 minus 64 minus 112i. And that is my answer. Okay. So that is it. That covers everything that we've done. And now we have just one more video to do, and we'll be done with this particular unit. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording on this, and I will go ahead and upload this. And then I will do video lesson 5.7, which is on dividing complex numbers. Okay? All right. Thank you very much.